stories beyond imagination.
I'm picking up a signal.
It's not on any known frequency.
The first sign came as a whisper through the deep. For decades, oceanographers had mapped the floor of the Mariana Trench, cataloging odd seismic tremors and unexplainable magnetic anomalies. But one night, Dr. Elena Marquez, a marine physicist, noticed something new, a repeating frequency pulsing through the sonar arrays. At first, she thought it was a glitch, perhaps interference from a passing submarine. But the pattern was too deliberate. 3 short bursts, a pause, 3 more, a kind of heartbeat buried under 7 miles of crushing pressure. Elena called her colleagues, and within hours the lab buzzed with frantic excitement. They triangulated the source to a chasm that official charts, labeled simply as unreachable. Funding was scrambled, a vessel was prepared, and a team of 12 scientists, biologists, engineers, linguists, and soldiers set sail. None of them knew that by chasing a heartbeat in the dark, they were about to uncover something that would rewrite human history and nearly end it. The expedition ship, Nereus II, bristled with experimental technology, reinforced titanium hulls, drones capable of withstanding the trench's pressure, and an AI system designed to interpret alien patterns of communication. The descent began at dawn. Floodlights stabbed into black waters, illuminating strange, bioluminescent creatures that scattered like ghosts. As they plunged deeper, the sea pressed harder against the hull, groaning like an old cathedral under strain. Dr. Rahul Singh, the mission's lead engineer, muttered that if a single seam cracked, they'd be crushed into paste before they could scream. Hours passed, each one heavier than the last, until the sonar pinged against something massive, metallic, geometric, and impossibly ancient. Cameras flickered on, revealing a monolithic structure wedged into the trench wall. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't natural. It was a ship, and it had been waiting for someone to find it. At first glance, the vessel looked impossibly alien, yet eerily familiar. Its surface shimmered with dark alloys, marked by etchings that glowed faintly like veins of molten fire. The hull stretched nearly a mile long, dwarfing even the largest submarines humanity had ever built. Some parts looked corroded, as though centuries of seawater had gnawed at its armor. Other parts, however, gleamed untouched, immune to time. A hatch, if it could be called that, yawned open like a wound. It was large enough for their drones to slip inside. Elena felt her throat tighten as the AI fed back streams of unreadable symbols etched on the inner walls. They weren't random. They formed sequences, patterns, language. "It's not dead," Rahul whispered. "This thing is breathing." A low vibration trembled through the Nereus II's hull. Not seismic, not mechanical. Something alive was stirring within. The drone cameras slid into the ship's interior. What they transmitted froze the control room into silence. Hallways stretched endlessly, lined with pods, thousands of them, stacked like coffins. Some were shattered, their glass lids jagged and empty. Others still held forms inside, twisted silhouettes that didn't quite match any earthly anatomy, too many limbs, eyeless faces, rib cages that pulsed as though lungs had never stopped working. The air inside the ship looked thick, almost liquid, shimmering as if space itself bent under its weight. Suddenly, one of the pods lit up. The team watched in horror as a figure inside twitched, then slammed a clawed hand against the glass. A screeching noise, not through speakers but inside their skulls, split their thoughts apart. The AI began spitting lines of corrupted code, unable to process the intrusion. Elena screamed, "Shut it down!" But before they could, the drone's feed cut to black. And in that silence, every single sonar reading spiked, as if the ship had just woken up. The ocean itself seemed to shudder. Readings showed pressure anomalies, around the trench rising and falling in unnatural waves, like a creature inhaling. Lights on the alien vessel flickered alive, casting eerie glows through the abyss. For the first time, the team realized the ship wasn't abandoned. It had been dormant, hibernating, and their curiosity had acted like an alarm clock. Panic spread across the Nereus II's crew. The soldiers demanded retreat. But the scientists argued this was humanity's first chance at direct contact with intelligent, extraterrestrial life. The debate ended abruptly when a shadow moved outside the ship. Something massive, larger than a blue whale, circled the trench. Its outline was barely visible, but the rows of bioluminescent markings down its body revealed a predator built for a world darker and older than ours. The crew was trapped, above them miles of ocean. Below them, an alien tomb that was no longer sleeping. Despite their fear, the scientists knew retreat was impossible. The nearest two had already committed to the descent, and any sudden ascent risked hull collapse. So, with trembling voices and clenched jaws, the decision was made. They would enter the alien vessel. A smaller submersible, Aegis, was deployed carrying Elena, Rahul, 2 Marines, and a linguist named Dr. Harper. The hatch of the alien ship gaped like the mouth of a leviathan as the Aegis slid inside. Its floodlights revealed walls coated in a strange resin, pulsating faintly as if the entire ship were alive. Symbols etched across the metal pulsed brighter with every movement, almost aware of their presence. "It's reading us," Harper whispered, eyes locked on the glowing glyphs. A deep groan echoed through the corridors, vibrating in their bones. For the first time, Elena wondered if they weren't exploring a ship at all, but the body of something still living. They emerged into a massive chamber, its size dwarfing any cathedral on Earth. Suspended in the void were crystalline orbs, hundreds of them floating like lanterns. Each orb rotated slowly, refracting their lights into fractured rainbows. As Rahul guided the submersible closer, the orbs turned, every single one of them, toward the newcomers. Inside each sphere was an eye, alien, unblinking, with pupils that dilated in perfect unison. Elena felt a pressure in her skull, as though her thoughts were being peeled open layer by layer. Whispers flooded the cabin, dozens of voices speaking in tongues too ancient to comprehend. Harper clutched his temples, blood trickling from his nose. "They're scanning us, cataloging us." A sudden crack reverberated through the chamber as one of the crystalline orbs shattered, releasing a ripple of energy that shorted their instruments. From the fragments, something crawled free. It looked like nothing they had ever seen. Its body shimmered like liquid metal, constantly shifting between forms, never settling. One moment it resembled a humanoid silhouette, the next a grotesque insect, then a writhing mass of tendrils. The Marines opened fire instinctively, bullets pinging uselessly off its shifting skin. The creature didn't flinch. Instead, it lunged against the submersible's reinforced glass, leaving a smear of glowing ichor that hissed like acid. The AI's voice crackled through static. "Bioform identified. Status, dormant guardian. Status activated." The words chilled everyone to the core. They hadn't discovered a relic of the past. They had tripped an alarm that woke the ship's defenders. And this was only the first. The chamber began to shift, as though the ship were rearranging itself. Walls folded, floors twisted, entire sections reformed with a grinding metallic roar. The submersible was tossed like a toy, alarms screaming as pressure valves strained. Elena grabbed the comms, yelling at the nearest two above. "We need extraction now!" But the ship's captain responded with horror in his voice. "The entire trench is moving." Sonar scans showed the abyss narrowing, as if the seabed itself was collapsing inward. The alien vessel wasn't just a ship. It was anchored to something colossal beneath the crust, something that was awakening. The scientists realized too late they hadn't found a crashed craft. They had uncovered a prison. Amid the chaos, Harper's bloodied hands scrambled to decode the glowing glyphs, now cascading across the walls. His voice shook as he translated fragments aloud. "Buried. Contain. Devourer. Do not release." The symbols weren't a language of invitation. They were warnings, desperate markers left by whoever had trapped this nightmare here. The realization spread through the crew like frost. Humanity hadn't stumbled upon a gift from the stars. They had pried open a cage. Outside the submersible, the guardian creature screamed, its body erupting into jagged forms. Behind it, deeper in the ship, pods were beginning to glow, one after another, tens, then hundreds, as if an army was preparing to rise. Elena whispered the words none of them wanted to hear. "We've woken the grave." Panic surged through the submersible. Elena screamed for Rahul to turn them around. But the corridors were no longer the same. The ship had sealed passages, twisting its insides like a labyrinth. The Marines unloaded round after round into the Guardian. But the bullets only slowed it, never breaking its stride. Sparks flew as its claws raked against the hull, leaving glowing scars in the metal. Above, the Nereus II reported violent tremors shaking the ocean floor, forcing them to maintain distance. "You don't understand?" Harper gasped, still decoding in a frenzy. "The warning said it feeds." "It feeds on thought." At that moment, every crew member felt a pull in their minds, as though memories were being siphoned out. Childhood faces, first loves, fears buried deep. The Guardian wasn't trying to kill them. It was trying to consume their identities. With no weapons strong enough to kill it, Rahul made a desperate decision. He rerouted the submersible's reactor, channeling excess heat into the outer hull. The metal glowed cherry red, scorching the Guardian as it clung to them. A shriek of psychic agony blasted through their skulls, cracking the windshield with hairline fractures. The creature recoiled, its body splintering into fragments of molten liquid that slithered back into the walls. But the maneuver came at a cost. The submersible's systems flickered, life support failing. "We've bought time," Rahul muttered, sweat dripping down his face. "But this coffin's on borrowed minutes." Outside, more pods were opening, and the trench echoed with a sound older than language. The sound of hunger awakening. The ship trembled, and from the far side of the chamber another figure emerged. This one was different, sleeker, armored in plates that reflected light like obsidian. Its eyes burned with white fire, and unlike the first Guardian, this one carried a weapon, a spear formed of pure energy. It struck the ground, sending a shockwave through the chamber that tossed the Aegis like driftwood. Elena's vision blurred as alarms screamed in her ears. This was no mindless monster. This was a soldier, a warden. It had been built for war, Harper whispered. "This isn't just a prison. It's a battlefield grave. We're standing inside the ruins of a war older than Earth itself." The second Guardian moved with terrifying speed, forcing Rahul to push the submersible to its limits. Corridors twisted as if guiding the predator toward them, herding them like prey. The Marines fired grenades, detonating explosions that rocked the ship. But the Guardian only grew angrier, its armor regenerating with every blast. Elena's hands shook as she clutched the comms. "Nereus II! If you hear me, prep the surface. We're bringing something with us." The captain's voice cracked. "Elena, if you surface, you'll unleash it into the world." Her reply was a whisper drowned by static. "If we stay, the world comes down here with us." As the chase continued, Harper finally pieced together the last fragments of the glowing script. His voice was broken, drenched in terror. "This isn't their ship. It's ours." Silence filled the cabin as his words sank in. "Not human ours," he corrected quickly, "but life's. Whoever built this, they weren't trying to conquer. They were like us, explorers, scientists, and they discovered something they couldn't destroy. So they buried it here, locked inside this vessel, chained at the bottom of an alien ocean that became ours when Earth was still forming." Elena's stomach dropped. The Guardians weren't protectors of humanity. They were jailers, watching over something too terrible to be free. And humanity had just cut the lock. The submersible groaned under the strain, alarms shrieking. Oxygen levels fell, lights dimmed, and the Guardian's spear struck again, tearing a gouge into the hull. Water sprayed in, freezing cold and merciless. One of the Marines was pulled out instantly, vanishing into the abyss with a muffled scream. Elena clung to her seat, her breath ragged. "We can't outrun it!" Rahul shouted. "We need to end it." But how could flesh and blood, humans destroy a weapon forged to hold? Back nightmares? Then Elena remembered the AI's earlier words. Dormant. Activated. The Guardians weren't alive in the traditional sense. They were machines, programmed centuries ago. Machines could be broken. Rahul ripped open a panel, exposing the AI core of the Aegis. "If they're machines, we can corrupt them," he muttered, hands flying. He coded furiously, splicing the alien patterns the AI had been recording into a digital virus. It was reckless, suicidal even. The AI warned that the feedback could fry every circuit on board, including life support. Elena didn't hesitate. "Do it." As the Guardian closed in, Rahul broadcast the corrupted signal. The effect was instant. The ship's walls screamed with static, glyphs flickering violently. The Guardian froze mid-strike, its spear dissolving into light as its body convulsed. With a final shriek that shook their teeth, it collapsed into shards of glass-like fragments that dissolved into nothing. For a moment there was silence. Then every pod in the chamber lit up at once. The light was blinding. Pods cracked open like eggshells, releasing figures that slithered, crawled, and marched from their tombs. Hundreds of Guardians, each different from the last, filled the chamber. Some bore wings, others claws, some walked like men, others like beasts. A tidal wave of alien soldiers, all turning their gaze toward the intruders. Elena's blood ran cold. The virus hadn't destroyed them. It had woken them. And now the ship was alive with an army that had slept through eons, waiting only for a trigger. Humanity had pulled it. Before the Guardians could attack, the trench split open with a roar that made the ocean quake. From the abyss below rose something beyond comprehension. A leviathan the size of a mountain, covered in armor plates, its eyes glowing like suns. The Guardians froze, not attacking but bowing, as though their true master had arrived. The glyphs on the walls blazed so bright the humans shielded their eyes. Harper gasped in horror. It's not the Guardians we were meant to fear. It's what they were built to contain. The Leviathan turned, its gaze locking on the human's fragile vessel. For the first time, Elena felt what true insignificance meant. Elena forced herself to think. Fear was useless. Action was all that mattered. Rahul, can you overload the reactor? His eyes widened. That'll kill us. If we don't, she said, her voice steady, it kills everyone. The Marines stared in silence. They all knew she was right. Humanity's only chance was to destroy the prison, collapse the trench, and bury the Leviathan once more, even if it cost their lives. Harper whispered, "This is what HFY means, isn't it? Not strength, not technology, the will to do what no one else will." Rahul set the reactor to overload. Warning sirens blared, heat building like a sun trapped in a cage. The Guardians screeched, swarming toward the Aegis, but the humans fought back with everything they had. Bullets tore through bodies, grenades shook the chamber, but still the tide came. Elena grabbed the comm one last time, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Tell the world we tried. Tell them to remember." Then she cut the transmission. A blinding light filled the submersible as the reactor screamed toward detonation. The explosion ripped through the trench, a sun blooming in the abyss. Shock waves shattered stone, collapsing the walls inward. Guardians dissolved in waves of static, their forms unraveling as their network was torn apart. The Leviathan roared, a sound of rage and hunger, before vanishing beneath miles of falling rock. The sea boiled, and the alien ship was crushed under its own collapsing prison. From the surface, the Nereus II saw the ocean erupt in towering waves before silence returned. Their sensors reported nothing. No ship, no survivors. Days later, international agencies scrambled to cover the event. Official reports claimed a deep-sea earthquake caused the anomaly. Families of the lost crew were told lies of accidents and implosions. But in secret, data from the mission was seized and locked away in black vaults. Only fragments of Elena's final transmission survived. "Tell the world we tried." The scientists who reviewed the glyphs realized the truth. Whatever lay beneath, the trench was not destroyed, only buried deeper. And the signal that had lured Elena's team there, it wasn't a distress call, it was bait. Weeks later, in a private lab in Geneva, a group of cryptographers received a file, smuggled from the wreckage of the Nereus II. It contained only static at first, but when filtered, the static resolved into words. Clear, deliberate human words. "We are still here. Do not dig. Do not search. Do not wake us again." No one knew if it was a warning from Elena, or an echo from something else that had learned human language in the dark. The ocean remains quiet. The world spins, unaware of how close it came to annihilation. But deep beneath the waves, cracks remain in the prison. And somewhere in the silence, a heartbeat still echoes. The lesson of Elena's crew is whispered only among those who know humanity is small, fragile, fleeting. Yet when faced with the abyss, humans alone had the will to sacrifice everything to protect a future they would never see. That is what makes us different. That is why, in the end, humanity stands.